Hello and welcome to another Writerly Witterings and a 5-minute review. Cheers. Today it's a little bit more than a review of one book. It's actually more a review of an entire series. It was quite a few years ago that I first met a guy called Tony Riches. And he and a good friend of his, Ben Kane, were joint founder members of the Historical Writers Association, which was created originally by Amanda Scott. And I joined very quickly, and I was on one of the initial committees kicking it all off. But Tony has always been fascinated with military history, and in particular the Romans. I think, yes, he holds a degree in military studies from the University of Manchester. And he began writing the story that would become the first novel in the Empire series after visiting Housted's Roman fort in 1996. And I have to admit, he's a thoroughly lovely bloke. However, that's got nothing to do with this. I tend not to review books I don't like because other people may well like them. He started this series, his Empire series, obviously with an idea for one book, but I've never actually asked him. I imagine he probably had the concept behind this series at that time. The Empire series is 10 books long now, which is why this is Empire X. Clever stuff. The Scorpions Strike. What's the book about? 5 minutes from now. Maternus, Praetorian soldier in the Imperial Army, was sent into Germany by Marcus Aurelius, the emperor. Marcus Aurelius died, Commodus took over. Commodus decided to show a certain amount of grown-up attitude and decided to try to bring Germany to peace. Be it advantageous to Rome, after all, to have some peace. But Maternus had been fighting a war against the guerrilla Germans for some time, and he wasn't happy with that, so he decided to kill his superiors and take his century and his men on a killing spree, a bandit spree, which threatened the peace. As he expected, a bunch of soldiers were sent after him, but when he met with very strong forces, he and his group split up into groups of 3 or 4 and just melted away into the distance. When a smaller force was sent after them, he slaughtered them. And as he went, he freed slaves, incorporated them into his little group, which soon became an army. So although he was a bandit, he was considered to be a bit of a threat and a nuisance. So they tried to track him down, but they failed. So in the end, Rome decided they had to respond when he laid siege to a fairly major town. Fine. That's the basic setup. Now, Rome decided to send some qualified, sensible soldiers against him. And Rome was being run by Cleander at this time, who was the imperial supervisor to Commodus in effect. Cleander had quite a lot of difficulty with this group of Romans, in particular Marcus Aquila, who was searching for justice. His wife had died in childbirth, which was bad, but he now knows that his wife was raped, and that's why she was pregnant and had to give birth. And the person who raped her was Commodus. So he's got a certain amount of difficulty with Commodus the Emperor, and he wants revenge. Although his desire for revenge is now leavened with a desire not to see all of his friends executed. Yeah, it's a sensible chap. So Cleander has a problem with Marcus Aquila because he knows that there's a desire for revenge. So Cleander decides to send Aquila and all his men, a bunch of English and all sorts of others, over to help pacify Maternus. But he's also told, I've got my notes here because there's a lot of names and they rattle past, Centurion Lupinus, from Lupinus, I'd better say, hadn't I? That didn't sound good. From the Praetorian Guard is going to join them, and as soon as they've brought Maternus to action and destroyed him, Lupinus has the job of then assassinating Marcus. So it is a convoluted story, don't get me wrong, but it is superbly well written. The characters are all genuine characters in my mind. It is very difficult to put this book down, just like all the other ones. Now, would I recommend you buy this? If you've read any of the other books by Tony, yes, definitely. But this is one of those horrible situations where, yes, I would recommend you buy this and read it. It explains enough as you go through. It is one of those books where it's a hotter headline story, and I know from personal experience that one thing they tell you is if you're writing a series, you have to give away enough in each book so that the buyers, that's you, don't feel that you have to go and buy the entire series just to be able to catch up with what's going on. So every one of Hotter Headlines books tends to be a standalone book that you can read on its own. Yes, you can. I couldn't recommend strongly enough that you also read the rest of the books though, because there is such a build-up in the characterization, the history of the different soldiers as they go through life together, and also their women and children. Everything ties together so smoothly with this series that you're missing out on a lot if you don't actually get the rest of them. What more can I say? It's an excellent read, really well put together story. Tony Riches is a delightful bloke. He's put together a very strong series rather than just this one story, and I thoroughly look forward to receiving the next one like this just when I'm on a tight deadline and when the last thing I can do is actually stop writing or proofreading, as I am now, in order to be able to read a book for a quick review. It may happen one day. In the meantime, go out and buy it, and buy all the rest. At the very least, get all the rest out of the library, because you will not be disappointed. Thanks very much for watching. Hope that was useful and interesting. If you liked that, please hit the like button and the subscribe button, hit the bell beside it, hit the share button, and put any comments you've got down the bottom. I'm always interested to know what sort of books you'd like me to talk about. Obviously most of the time it's crime. Hopefully the next book I'm going to be reviewing is Martin Edwards' latest, because that's just arrived, and I've got a fairly confident suspicion that I'm not going to be able to put that one down either, because I know what sort of a writer Martin is. Hey ho, here we go. Right, so that's that. I'd better get back to work now. Thanks a lot for watching. Speak to you soon. Cheers. Right, what's next on the to-do list? Ugh.